We're approaching the end of August of 2019. We're going into September. This is the Life Beyond the Grave story. The story about the doomsday couple, Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell. We're on part 145. Lori Vallow's daughter, Tylee Ryan, is a mess. She has a few struggles thrown upon her by her mother, Lori Vallow, her uncle, Alex Cox, and her mother's lover, Chad Daybell. During this time, Tylee has been Lori's best friend and defender, the one that has accepted her mother for her flaws and knows exactly what's going on. Since 2002, the divorce between her mother, Lori, and her dad, Joseph Ryan, court records suggested that Lori might be the reason for Tylee's medical issues. Tylee Ryan had been sick, she's having anxiety, and they believe that a lot of it is stemming from Mom. It seemed that Lori was creating a very stressful atmosphere for the children. Lori tells witnesses in this case that Tylee is freaking out after Charles was shot. Very important to understand this because this is how Lori deals with how her children are dealing with the lifestyle that she throws at them. So they're very stressed out and she doesn't seem to care. So we're learning what kind of loving mother Lori really is. You got to remember, Lori has been manipulating everyone to believe that she is this loving, caring mother. Her family has demanded that fact several times. But according to witnesses, Tylee was really having a difficult time after Charles was shot. She doesn't want to stay in the house. Her mom says she's freaking out. Everything's just a chaotic mess. And what happened to Charles that day was no picnic in the park for either of these two children. And we don't know exactly what the children know that day when Charles Vallow was ambushed. Lori believes that she got away with self-defense. But according to these documents, police supposedly are finding out that what their accounts of what happened that day just don't add up to be self-defense. Charles had been shot twice, and one of those times is while he was lying on the floor. We'll go into more details on the autopsy later. For both Tylee and JJ, what they were going through already, plus as if losing their father wasn't enough, it seems like torture the way that Lori continues to rip everything that the kids care about or know away. And Lori definitely had ripped everything away that JJ ever had in his life. His father, his grandparents, now his service dog, Bailey. Bailey was very important since JJ was autistic. It helped keep him calm, happy, and felt loved. So not only was Tylee struggling with the fact that her father was shot, she wasn't happy about JJ's service dog being sent back to the trainer to a new family. And so naturally, Tylee shows a bit of rebellion, especially towards her mom, her mom's choices, and her new lover, Chad Daybell. According to a few witnesses, Tylee made it known that she was not caring much for Chad. And what does this do for Tylee? Well, it turns her into an obstacle not only for Lori, but for Chad as well. At the end of August, we learned that Lori was packed up, and she continues to pack as they prepare to leave Arizona to move to Rexburg, Idaho. It seems that her brother, herself, have been looking in a few places in the area, and they had planned to try to move not too far from her lover's home in Salem, Idaho, Chad Daybell. After all, they both confirmed after visiting the temple, seeking this confirmation, what are her next steps in her life, and that is to move to Rexburg. We're starting to realize that Tylee Ryan must have felt awfully alone. She has no one to confide in. If she did, this could come back to her from her mother. Tylee's a smart girl. She knows what happens to traitors. She's seen it several times. But Tylee's not alone when it comes to feeling lost during this time or helpless, even sick. Her brother J.J. Vallow is struggling more than anyone might realize. And today, on August 30th, his dog is being picked up. Tylee can only watch helplessly as the trainer pulls up into the driveway to pick up the dog. According to Justine Lum, a reporter for Fox 10, each person that Lori talks to, she gives a different version as to why she's going to Idaho. She tells some people she's going for a job, others, she has a tragedy in her life, she has to move. One of those lies will be that Tylee Ryan is going to attend BYU. Again, you have to apply opposite day to Lori Vallow to almost everything she says, especially when it has to do with a lie. So, whose kids are actually attending BYU? Chad's kids. Most likely that one of his excuses as to why he has to stay in Rexburg. But Lori is always playing victim, no matter what. According to the dog trainer, we'll just call him NM, he goes to pick up the dog from Lori. He says they were in the middle of moving. She had the SUV in the middle of the driveway. They were throwing bags in there. JJ was in the back seat on his tablet. Interestingly, he says he doesn't see Tylee that day. So this gives you an idea of what I'm about to read to you, of how manipulative she can be and how she can get others to be manipulative too. So according to NM, she said, when Lori brought Bailey out, she asked if I had found a home for him yet. She said, well, if Tylee asked, just tell her you have, because she's really upset about all this. The trainer doesn't have an idea that Charles had been shot during this time. He says he doesn't learn that until later. He explained how Lori did call him to pick up the dog right before they moved to Idaho. In his mind, he said he felt like he was just trying to help them out. All he had learned from Lori is, again, the tragedy had happened in her life and that she needed to move. No mention that the landlord wanted Lori out of that house ASAP. And again, he explains, Lori's telling him these lies. His daughter's going to attend BYU. That's why she's moving up there, not for a job. And that she needed him to come get him right now. Also, on August 30th of 2019, Lori, Tylee, and JJ drive up in the SUV to Colby's workplace. Colby does see Tylee in a Jeep. He comes out to talk to them briefly, and they tell them that they're moving the next day, so around August 31st. According to Colby, he says he had no idea that they were leaving, and this was sudden. Colby said that he thought this was a great idea, that she would take the kids and get out of that house where Charles Vallow had died. So Lori tells Colby Ryan the reason for her moving up north is she got a new job, but did not mention where this job was or what she was doing, at least according to him. Tylee seemed sad. She wasn't happy about moving away and didn't say much. Again, we're finding out that Tylee Ryan doesn't seem, to be very happy at all. Remember, Lori Vallow felt comfortable enough with Colby to tell him that she was going to be marrying a man shortly after Charles was killed. So what is Melanie Boudreaux's version of what happened? Well, she does an interview later with Arizona's family. And anyway, she says that she was quite close to Lori, that she was more like a mom than anyone. What's her reasoning for Lori escaping to Idaho? Well, this is what she said in the interview.
I was away when I was 9, and Lori is one of the closest things to her and how much love my mom showed me. So she's a friend, almost like a mother to me, and an aunt, and somebody that I love. Prior to their move, she was moving for their safety and for those threatening her, and to keep JJ and Tylee safe. This was a big move to try to, kind of move forward after after Charles was shot and to remain safe with the kids. So as soon as I move up there in November, I see some of their stuff, but I don't see them there. And Lori says that they're safe and they're doing everything they can to keep them from the people that are trying to harm them. I believe that.
So who is threatening Lori? Well, according to Lori, she's getting threatening emails from Kay Woodcock, when in reality, all it is Kay is trying or begging for Lori to allow them to see JJ or to allow JJ to come to his own father's memorial. Kay is very confused about, how Lori could turn into this person that she never knew until, Charles and her started having problems. So interestingly, Janice and Summer, they've done everything they could to take up for Lori, especially to keep her out of jail after shooting Charles. They even had some very questionable emails that come out where they offered to help Lori. During all this tragedy, how many people are involved that belong to Lori's family? It's nearly her entire family. How many family members of Chad's are being questioned or thought about in this time? One rumor is going around, and that is that Tammy Daybell might be suspicious that her husband is doing something he's not supposed to. That's the most drama that is happening in Rexburg, Idaho, other than him and his sister-in-law, until Lori Vallow arrives in Rexburg, Idaho. As soon as she arrives in Rexburg, Idaho, immediately things start to go downhill. So it's really interesting we heard several testimonies about Tammy's health, what she was doing, what she was being active in. We learned that she liked clogging. And it seems that it's possible that her exercise started to increase around this time. According to Emma Murray /Daybell, Tammy Daybell's daughter, the one that was very popular amongst people following this case, she testified something that just didn't seem to make sense. What's interesting is Emma's spending a lot of time with her mother, yet when we hear her testify, she doesn't seem to have any type of connection to her mom. In fact, she seems to be lying on the stand to do whatever she needed to do to make Tammy look weak. So here's a clip of Emma Daybell explaining how she and her mother Tammy began to do clogging and exercising.
And do you specifically remember that from September of 2019?
Yes.
Okay. I want to change the subject a little bit about the clogging and the Zumba high fitness classes. What can you tell me about you and your mother's participation in those classes?
At that time, my mother and I were both overweight and wanted to exercise more. And some ladies at the school invited us to come to a class that they were going to. It was in the evening at a local elementary school. In the gym.
Can you tell me when approximately you and your mother started those classes?
We started going in April 2019.
And this was a joint effort to improve both of your fitness?
That's correct.
Okay. In your situation, was that shortly after a birth of one of your children?
That's correct.
And I got a lot of heat for suggesting people's weight and size and everything else, but needless to say, you felt personally.
Yes, that is my own words. I was overweight and I wanted to get healthier.
Okay, and your mother, from discussions with her, shared the same view?
Yes, I don't know how much she weighed.
Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation.
Sustained. Okay. In any event, the purpose of the Zumba class was for both of you to try to improve your fitness.
Yes.
Okay. Can you talk about the level of participation that both of you engaged in as part of those clogging and Zumba classes?
The idea of the Zumba class, high fitness, is that you can participate to whatever ability you're able to. The way that the gym was set up is it was a school multi-purpose room, so it had a basketball court and a stage. Our instructor would be on the stage where everybody could see her moving, and we would mirror her body movements, similar to how you would copy an exercise video at your house.
I don't want to torture you guys much more with that, but needless to say, she was saying that her mom had a few issues doing these exercise classes, but other witnesses said no, that wasn't the case. Let's listen to a little bit about how Emma describes their faith.
And my understanding is you're of the LDS faith.
Yes.
And you're a participant, an active participant in your faith. Is that correct?
Yes.
How would you describe your father's faith?
I would say very traditional in what he believed, and he would research very carefully, and he wanted to stick to as close as the original form as he could. So he was really interested in teachings from Joseph Smith and Brigham Young and similar early leaders of the church.
Would it be fair to describe your father as a fundamental?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and you didn't share his religious beliefs?
Not necessarily.
Okay, some of them you were.
Yes.
Some of them that are consistent with your current LDS faith, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, but you would describe him as someone from days gone by, foregone?
Yes.
Okay, very traditional?
Yes.
Okay, literalist?
I don't know what you mean by that.
Looked at the words and applied the plain meaning of the words?
Yes.
Okay. And there's some theories that you didn't necessarily agree with him, is that correct?
Yes.
Would that be a subject of discussion at the dinner table? When you were growing up?
Yes.
Okay. And do your brothers and sisters all share your father's fundamental beliefs?
I think they're more similar to me, that there's elements that they might feel drawn to and others that they don't.
Are there elements of your father's faith that you don't necessarily agree with? Okay. Okay. There's been some discussion about the idea of light and dark. Can you describe to me what you understand to be the concept of light and dark?
The phrases good and evil would be talking about your actions, what you chose to do, where light and dark would be talking about your motivations. Light means that you're acting selflessly like the Savior would be, and dark means that you're selfish, focusing inward like Satan would be.
Okay, was this something that your mother, from your discussions with your family, shared with your father in terms of her beliefs?
Yes.
So would it be fair to say that your mother's beliefs, to your knowledge, were also of the fundamental or traditional node?
Probably more so than him.
Okay. Did she ever have discussions about putting numbers, death percentages, or numbers, whether how light and how dark a person would be?
Yes.
Did she do that frequently?
Yes.
Okay. Was it particularly about anybody, or was it as her day-to-day activities she would make comments about that?
As she came across people and observed things, she would mention it. Objection, Your Honor, calls for hearsay.
Sustained. Okay. Now, you had an occasion personally to deal with your mother's rating system in terms of dark. Is that correct?
Several.
Okay. And was there an occasion when your mother engaged in a practice of trying to rid some sort of dark entity from you?
Yes.
And can you describe what that was about?
Objection, Your Honor, relevance.
Oral. Can you describe what that was about, please?
I have struggled with anxiety for years, and it was feeling very unmanageable. And I felt like there was a being that was with me. And I talked to my parents about it. And my dad cast it out using the power of the priesthood. And then I felt better afterwards.
As Emma tries to attempt to make it look as her mother, is making all the calls, it turns out that her father's the one that cast out these dark spirits. Interestingly, she admits that her father is not a perfect person, but we all know that. So Emma could not show us how Tammy was involved with eliminating these dark spirits. However, we did learn that Chad and Tammy did believe at one time if you're been taken over by a dark spirit, it can be taken care of without having to kill the body. That's what they say anyways. And if that's the case, when Lori Vallow comes up to Idaho, that all seems to change as well. Emma says she believes that Christianity, the LDS, they all believe they teach between, dark and light. But what she doesn't understand is they do not teach it in the way her father's teaching it.
In the Bible, the Savior would cast.
Have you ever heard the word zombies?
Just on TV and movies.
Okay. And at this point, are you aware of whether by stating someone's a zombie and you do one of these castings, does that mean the person dies as well?
No.
Okay. And again, part of that casting and removal of the dark entities is also consistent with your LDS faith, is that correct?
Yes.
So after listening to this, either Emma doesn't believe and was not taught about zombies and the fact that if you were a zombie, you would have to die. Or they're lying. There's absolutely no information about zombies with Chad Daybell until Melanie Gibb and Lori Vallow come into their lives. They were taking a lot of their LDS fundamental teachings and then some and applying or mixing it with emotional code or energy healing. So they were doing their own thing. The church even warned a lot of the LDS people to beware of this energy code healing stuff. They didn't want them being involved with it. While Tammy Daybell did dabble a bit in, this emotional code, she wasn't that big into it. However, Julie Rowe was. This is something Chad Daybell was learning a lot from Julie Rowe because he actually had taken a few sessions with her. And she had actually come to the Daybell's house to work with them as well. Again, Emma says that it's her mother that's more skilled in the energy code. That could be true later on, since we know that Tammy was trying to do what Chad and Julie Rowe were teaching. She was also into herbal remedies, so there's a possibility she was getting better. But the energy teachings had nothing to do with what Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell were doing. During John Pryor's questioning of Emma Daybell or Murray during Chad Daybell's trial, he asked her, where does Chad get these ideas?
I want to talk to you a little bit about your father's books. And how would you describe your father's novels in terms of fiction or nonfiction?
He did write some
ideas in his books. Where do you think he derived most of his inspiration from?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation.
Overruled. You may answer.
The Latter-day Saint Church.
Okay.
And his own ideas.
Okay, and I want to clarify a little bit. When you say the Latter-day Saint Church, you're not necessarily meaning the current Latter-day Saint Church, are you?
No.
You're referring to what was at some time a more traditional view of some of the readings of the Latter-day Saints.
Yes.
And would you agree that it was your father's intention to sort of, and through his books, discuss some of those theories and express those through his books?
Yes, similar to how historical fiction can teach about the past, he wanted to teach about the future with fictional characters.
Okay, and it doesn't necessarily mean as someone like you who has firm belief in the LDS faith that you would necessarily agree with everything he put in his books. Would that be fair?
Yes, it was an interesting experience to read and to think about what I would do in similar situations, but I did not interpret it to be scripture in any way.
Nor did you interpret it something that you would generally accept or believe. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
There's a high chance that Emma Daybell is lying here, simply because we know how a lot of these Mormons, not all Mormons, like I said, within this group, are dealing with if the church doesn't agree with what you're teaching or what you're studying, well, you have to manipulate it and say, put it in a way that fits the church. So lots of lies. That's where a red flag went up, knowing that Emma had spent so much time with Julie Rowe and her father during a time when the church was sending out letters of warning. And so that sent these huge red flag for me. Lots of manipulators during that time. You have Melanie Gibb, Chad Daybell, Julie Rowe, Hector Solsa, on and on. So something I've learned about these Mormons, again, not all Mormons, but Mormons in these eval groups and such, they like to manipulate the situation and just keep doing what they want to do. Ask them a question and they work around the truth. Please share your thoughts below. Do you think that Emma Daybell was telling the truth? How do you feel about her testimony? Do you think she was there to protect her mother, who was the victim, or her father? Do you think Tammy played a bigger part in this than what we know? Thank you so much, guys, for your support, your love on this channel. I appreciate the likes and the shares. I especially appreciate you guys sharing these girls that continue to go on missing, like Dulce, Jasmine Robinson. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Love you guys, and I'll see you guys soon.